Hello and welcome to Indus News live from Islamabad. I'm Bulletin and these are the headlines. Prime Minister Imran Khan says Pakistan has started efforts to unite the Muslim world under the banner against Islamophobia. Speaking in Multan, Khan said a united Muslim world would warn the UN and the EU of a trade boycott if blasphemy is committed against Islamic figures. In Afghanistan, at least 16 children have been wounded in a rocket attack on the provincial governor's compound in eastern Kunar province. Local officials said the rocket hit the compound when a religious ceremony was underway. 12 policemen were also killed in two separate attacks in Kandahar and Logar as fighting between the Taliban and Afghan forces continued. India has recorded the world's highest daily coronavirus cases for the fifth consecutive day. The country has reported nearly 352,000 cases and its highest death toll of over 2,800 in the past 24 hours. In Pakistan, the military's media wing said troops have been deployed across the country to assist the civil administration in the fight against the pandemic. The country has so far recorded 17,187 deaths and more than 800,000 infections. Globally, the virus has claimed more than 3.1 million lives and has infected over 147 million people. In India, farmers' agitation against the controversial farm laws has entered its sixth month. Thousands of farmers are still camped on the outskirts of New Delhi despite raging coronavirus infections. They are demanding a complete rollback of laws they say favor big corporates. Prime Minister Boris Johnson has criticized a new one-year jail term given to British Iranian aid worker in Iran on propaganda charges. Nazanin Zaghari Ratcliffe was arrested at a Tehran airport in 2016 and later convicted of plotting to overthrow the government. She was released last month at the end of a 5-year sentence but was ordered back into court to face new charges. Those were the headlines and detailed stories right after a short break. Stay tuned. Welcome back, and now for the news in detail. Prime Minister Imran Khan says Pakistan has started efforts to unite the Muslim world under one banner against Islamophobia. Speaking in Multan, Khan said a united Muslim world would warn the UN and the EU of a trade boycott if blasphemy is committed against Islamic figures. He said the entire Muslim world would ask them that they cannot hurt the sentiments of Muslims in the name of freedom of speech. The Prime Minister said a united effort is the only way Muslims can achieve their goal. Earlier this month, Khan unveiled his strategy to unite the Muslim world to convince the West to impose a Holocaust-like ban on Islamophobia. India has recorded the world's highest daily coronavirus cases for the fifth consecutive day. The country reported over 352,000 new cases and more than 2,800 deaths overnight, the highest figure so far. Globally, the virus has claimed 3.1 million lives and infected 146 million people so far. More in this report.
The world's fight against COVID-19 is in disarray, with the third wave breaking records as vaccine skepticism and supply issues grow. In the US, more than 5 million people have missed out on their second dose, endangering recovery efforts. Responding to India's call for help, the US, EU, France, Germany, and the UK have pledged to send resources. Greece and Switzerland have become the latest nations to detect a case of the Indian variant. Experts say there is mounting evidence that India's actual COVID-19 stats are much higher than reported. In Europe, Italy has announced a $268 billion package to boost businesses and help those hit the hardest by unemployment. In Asia, a long-delayed travel bubble between Hong Kong and Singapore will begin on 26th of May. Meanwhile, Malaysian health authorities say the AstraZeneca vaccine is safe for use 3 days after the nation received its first batch of the shots.
The Pakistan Army has vowed to do everything in its power to protect people's lives amid the third wave of the coronavirus. In a news conference, the spokesman for the military's media wing, Major General Babar Iftikhar, said the armed forces have been deployed in the country to help during the pandemic. He added that the move is meant to assist the government and law enforcement agencies. Major General Babar said if the need arises, oxygen supply will be diverted from other industries to the health sector. This comes as the nationwide tally of COVID-19 infections in Pakistan surpassed 800,000. The country recorded 70 new deaths and over 4,800 coronavirus cases overnight. The health ministry says the countrywide death toll has risen to 17,187. In India, thousands of farmers have continued their protests outside New Delhi despite a record surge in COVID-19 infections. Since November, farmers have been protesting against the 3 new agricultural laws which they say will destroy their livelihoods. The protests entered their 6th month this week. The Narendra Modi-led government claims the new laws will modernize India's agriculture, but multiple rounds of talks between farmers and the centre have failed to break the deadlock. Protesters say the farm laws are a bigger threat to them than the coronavirus. The farmers have refused to vacate the sites unless the government agrees to completely roll back the contentious laws. Iran has sentenced a British Iranian aid worker to a 1-year jail term on charges of propaganda against the country. Nazanin Zaghari-Ratcliffe's lawyer said she was also banned from leaving the country for 1 year. Prime Minister Boris Johnson has criticized the new jail term given to Zaghari-Ratcliffe on propaganda charges. She was arrested at a Tehran airport in 2016 and later convicted of plotting to overthrow the government. The aid worker was released from house arrest last month at the end of a 5-year sentence, but she was immediately ordered back into the court to face the new propaganda charges. Zaghari's family denies the charges, and her lawyer said he will appeal the new sentence within 21 days. Iran's Foreign Minister Javad Zarif has welcomed what he called a positive role being played by Iraq to bring stability to the region. Addressing a joint press conference with his Iraqi counterpart in Baghdad, Zarif pledged to bolster ties with Iraq. But he said the ties must be in accordance with the principle of non-interference. Separately, a recording has come to the surface in which Zarif said Iran's Revolutionary Guard had more say in Iran's policies than him. Iran's Foreign Ministry spokesman has not disputed the audio's authenticity. Russia has expelled an Italian diplomat in retaliation to a similar move by Rome last month. The Italian Foreign Ministry has called the expulsion an unjust and unfounded reaction to a legitimate act by Rome. Earlier, Moscow summoned the Italian ambassador to Russian Foreign Ministry to share the reasons for the expulsion. Last month, Italy expelled 2 Russian diplomats after police said they were caught passing secret documents to a Russian military official. Moscow has called the move groundless. China says it will step up support for Russia amid tightening Western sanctions against Moscow. At a press briefing, Foreign Ministry spokesperson Wang Wenbin said Beijing strongly opposes the use of unilateral curbs. Wenbin said China and Russia will support each other in the matters of protecting state sovereignty. He said the 2 countries maintained bilateral relations of comprehensive partnership. Tensions between Russia and the US-led West have soared over jailed Kremlin critic Alexei Navalny and recent row with Ukraine. Yemen's Houthi rebels claim to have targeted a Saudi military base in the southern Khamis Mushaid city. In a tweet, the group's military spokesperson Yahya Sarai said the drone hit the target accurately. However, there is no immediate confirmation from Saudi Arabia on the incident so far. The Houthis have stepped up cross-border aerial attacks on Saudi Arabia and a ground offensive in Yemen's Marib region. The Houthis and the government coalition have made rival claims of making advances in Marib. The recent increase in violence follows the US and the UN calls for a nationwide ceasefire to help end the war in Yemen. More stories to follow right after a short break. Stay tuned. Welcome back. In Myanmar, anti-coup activists have called for a new non-cooperation campaign by refusing to pay electricity bills and agricultural loans. Protesters say they will not participate in the system and will not cooperate with the junta. They have also called for children to stop going to school. Activists criticize the 5-point agreement reached at the Association of Southeast Asian Nations Summit. The agreement did not mention political prisoners, although the statements at the meeting heard calls for their release. International aid agencies say the civil disobedience campaign has crippled the country's economy and healthcare. Activists say over 750 people have been killed by security forces since the February 1st coup. Japan's ruling Liberal Democratic Party has lost all 3 seats in the parliamentary by-elections. The loss deals a significant blow to Prime Minister Yoshihide Suga's re-election bid in the general elections later this year. Talking to reporters, Prime Minister Suga said he takes the defeats with humility and will make necessary amends in his policies. He added, fighting the pandemic remains his government's priority. Meanwhile, speaking at party headquarters, the LDP's election campaign chief said the party will reflect seriously on the voters' judgment. Earlier, candidates backed by the main opposition Constitutional Democratic Party claimed all 3 seats, including 2 in the upper house and 1 in the lower house. South Korea has called on North Korea for a resumption of inter-Korean contacts and cooperation. Seoul's Unification Minister Lee In-young said such cooperation will benefit the people of both the countries. Lee said they consider it necessary that both Koreas resume bilateral dialogue as soon as possible. The Unification Minister reiterated that Seoul continues to adhere to the previously reached inter-Korean agreements. Pyongyang had suspended all inter-Korean exchanges and dialogue following the failed denuclearization talks in 2019. Palestinians have forced the Israeli police to remove the barriers on the way to Jerusalem's Damascus Gate. The forces had barred Muslim worshippers from gathering in the area during the holy month of Ramadan. Footage from Damascus Gate showed the area packed with visitors cheering and whistling in victory. The atmosphere contrasted starkly from that of previous nights, which have featured violent clashes. Meanwhile, Israel has fully closed the Gaza fishing zone after alleging rockets were launched from the territory. Earlier, the Palestine Liberation Organization slammed Israel for denying the Palestinians their right to hold elections in the occupied Jerusalem. Pakistan has condemned the violent acts carried out by the Israeli forces in occupied Palestinian territories. In a statement, the Foreign Office urged the international community to protect the rights of the Palestinians. Spokesperson Zahid Hafiz Chaudhry said Islamabad is concerned over the harassment of Palestinians during the month of Ramadan. He denounced the arrests of Palestinians and other arbitrary restrictions imposed on them in violation of fundamental human rights. The spokesperson said Pakistan supports the Palestinian people's right to self-determination. He stressed the imperative need to have a 2-state solution in accordance with the relevant resolutions of the United Nations and the OIC. Lebanon has asked Saudi Arabia to reconsider a ban on its produce imposed over what Riyadh called a rise in drug smuggling. In a statement, President Michel Aoun and caretaker Prime Minister Hassan Diab asked the public prosecutor to pursue investigations. They also called upon the prosecutor to keep Saudi officials informed of the results. The kingdom announced the ban last week, a measure that will only add to Lebanon's severe economic woes. Lebanon is in the midst of a deep financial crisis, posing the biggest threat to its stability since a 15-year-long civil war. Russia has successfully tested a new interceptor missile of the country's anti-ballistic missile defense system. The test was conducted at the Sarishagan proving ground in Kazakhstan. In a statement, the Defense Ministry says the missile is now in service with the Russian forces. They said the new system is designed to protect Moscow from air and space attacks. The commander of the anti-missile defense system formation said the interceptor can travel at a speed of over 3 km per second, which is 4 times the speed of a Kalashnikov assault rifle's bullet. Global military expenditure has increased by 2.6% despite the economic contraction due to COVID-19. A report from the Stockholm International Peace Research Institute shows that the world's defense spending rose to $2 trillion in 2020. According to the report, the spending increased despite global GDP shrinking nearly 4.5% during the period. Diego Lopez de Silva, one of the report's authors, says it was shocking to see that the global defense expenditure was not affected by COVID-19. The overall military share rose from 2.2% to 2.4%, the largest year-on-year increase since the financial crisis of 2009. However, there are some states, including Russia, Brazil, Chile, and South Korea, that spent lesser or reallocated the military budget to health. China says the International Atomic Energy Agency will invite Beijing to participate in the monitoring of Fukushima water release. At a press briefing, Foreign Ministry spokesperson Wang Wenbin said Beijing proposed that IAEA set up a technical working group. Wang said the group will comprise stakeholders and will monitor and assess Japan's disposal of water from Fukushima plant. He added the UN nuclear watchdog is actively engaged in setting up the working group. Earlier, the IAEA welcomed South Korea's participation after it raised concerns over Tokyo's plans. Japan plans to release over 1.2 million tons of contaminated water from its Fukushima nuclear plant into the Pacific Ocean. In Cuba, the national flag-bearing board staged a protest against U.S.'s 60-year-old embargo. The Cuban Foreign Ministry has called to hold similar protests abroad as well. Cubans gathered on the capital Havana's coastline to support the protest as boats blaring horns passed the U.S. embassy situated in Malacon. The protesters demanded to end the pressure being subjected on the Caribbean island nation. Former President Donald Trump's tightening of the decades-old trade embargo on Cuba has inflicted further pain on its ailing economy. The new President Joe Biden's administration says it is reviewing the policy, but has not indicated about any new action or policy yet. The Spanish Coast Guard says it has rescued another 49 migrants off the Canary Islands. It said the refugees were traveling on a canoe-shaped open vessel at the time of rescue. The migrants have been taken to Arguineguin's port, while one refugee was taken to the hospital for treatment. On Saturday, another dinghy carrying 50 people, including children, was rescued by Spanish authorities. The UN says hundreds died or went missing last year after attempting to cross the Spanish islands in the Atlantic Ocean. Nomadland, a recession-era tale about a community of worn dwellers in the American West, has won the Oscar for Best Picture. More about the biggest night of the year in Hollywood in this report.
The 93rd Annual Academy Awards marked a dramatic departure from the previously televised presentations. Usual comedy and musical performances had been replaced with lengthy oratory from the winners in this year's pandemic-constrained awards show. Nomadland was the big winner at this year's Oscars.
I know you.
Yeah, hi. Dave, right?
It won the Best Picture, while the film's director, Chloe Zhao, won the Best Director, becoming just the second woman and the first woman of color to win the award.
Thank you to the Academy. Thank you to my brilliant nominees, final nominees. Thank you. My entire Nomadland company. What a crazy, once-in-a-lifetime journey we're on together. Thank you so much. I'm so grateful to you.
The Best Actor gong went to Anthony Hopkins for his role as a man with dementia in The Father.
Something wrong?
Where's Anne?
Sorry?
Anne, where is she?
I'm here.
Meanwhile, Nomadland star Frances McDormand won her third Oscar after taking home the lead actress. The Best Supporting Actor went to Daniel Kaluuya for his nuanced portrayal of Fred Hampton.
You can murder a freedom fighter, but you can't murder freedom.
Thank you so much for showing me myself. And yeah, man, there's so much work to do, guys, and that's on everyone in this room. This ain't no single man job. That's some real, and I look to everyone, every single one of you. We got work to do. Do you understand?
Meanwhile, South Korean film icon Yeon Yoo-jung won the Best Supporting Actress for her performance in Minari. Seoul won the Academy Award for Animated Feature Film, whereas Another Round got the accolade for the Best International Film.
Come on.
In a remote part of Pakistan, two women have come up with a novel idea to help children continue reading and learning during the pandemic. More about this idea of a camel library in this report.
Roshan, the camel, is on an important mission. He purposely plods through the arid desert terrain of Pakistan's southwestern Balochistan province. His destination is a village where dozens of children, all wearing their Sunday best, await him and his cargo of books. Children choose the books they like and return them when the lunging library walks in again.
When the camel comes, we collect books from it. At first, I try to read the books myself, but if I do not understand anything, I ask the teacher.
Rahima and Zubaida Jalal started the library last year after schools closed due to the pandemic. They hope to continue and expand the project to cover more villages and are looking into funding.
At present, we are running this project with a very small budget of $117 per month. If we get donations and books, we want to increase this from just 4 villages to many more, maybe 40 villages.
Murad Ali, Roshan's owner, says camels are the most sensible mode of transport in the rugged area where streets are too narrow for vehicles.
Now, I carry these books to 4 villages and the children love it. I'm also very happy, so are all the people in the villages. So now the process is continuing and I'm happily doing it.
The project collaborates with the Female Education Trust and Alif Laila Book Bus Society, 2 NGOs that have been running children's library projects in the country for the past 36 years.
And now the business updates. The Wall Street stocks have opened slightly higher as investors geared up for a busy week of the first quarter earnings season. The Dow Jones Industrial Average Index traded nearly 0.1% higher at open. While the tech-heavy Nasdaq Composite opened nearly 0.5% higher. The S&P 500 index also landed in the positive category, trading close to 0.25% higher. Meanwhile, oil prices have fallen on fears that surging COVID-19 cases in India will drive down fuel demand. Zimbabwe have announced a 16-man squad for the Test series against Pakistan. The 2-match Test series will begin at the Harare Sports Club on Thursday. Star batsman Brendan Taylor has been recalled in a lineup that includes 5 uncapped players. Taylor did not feature in Zimbabwe's previous series against Afghanistan in the UAE due to the health issues. His inclusion will provide the much-needed experience in the absence of middle-order batsman Craig Irvine. Pakistan All-rounder Sikandar Raza misses out as he receives treatment for a bone marrow infection. In the National Basketball Association, Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant have led the Brooklyn Nets to a 128 to 119 point win over the visiting Phoenix Suns. The win backs Brooklyn's standing as the top team in the Eastern Conference. Irving recorded 34 points and 12 assists for the Nets, while Durant contributed 33 points. Devin Booker scored a match-high 36 points for the Suns but failed to secure a win for the visitors. Meanwhile, Atlanta Hawks came from behind to down Milwaukee Bucks 111 to 104 at home. Bogdan Bogdanovic matched his season high with 32 points to snap Atlanta's 6-game losing streak against Milwaukee. Ben Ainsley and Team Great Britain made a stunning Day 2 comeback to claim victory at the Sail Grand Prix Bermuda event. It was the first action in the series in more than 14 months. The racing took place in winds near the upper limit, with the F50 boats reaching speeds around 50 knots. Earlier, the Australians swept all 3 races in relatively light winds on the opening day. But Ainsley and his team took advantage of the tough conditions later on to claim a win and a second place to earn a trip to the 3 boats final. The second season of the Sail GP series now heads across the Atlantic to Taranto, Italy for round 2 on June the 5th and the 6th. In football, Manchester City beat Tottenham Hotspur 1-0 to win the Carabao Cup for the 4th successive season.
A late goal by Aymeric Laporte handed City a deserved victory at Wembley Stadium. The win sets the stage for further glory, as City are close to winning the Premier League title as well. Meanwhile, Athletic Bilbao stand leaders Atletico Madrid 2-1 to throw La Liga's title race further open. Inigo Martinez headed in the late winner for Athletic to cut Atletico's lead to just 2 points. Earlier, Barcelona drew level on points with second place Real Madrid by beating Villarreal 2-1. Elsewhere, Burnley thrashed Wolverhampton Wanderers 4-0 to ascend to 14th place in the Premier League. Chris Wood's hat-trick helped Burnley take a huge step towards retaining their league status. In other fixtures, Leeds United held Manchester United to a goalless draw, while Aston Villa and West Brom drew 2-2.
Another weather situation from around the globe. And that is all for now with the latest updates. You can follow us on social media at Indus News.